Okay, we are live. Let's go.
Okay. Good evening, all. This is Dr. Nandini Sarkar, moderator of the event 9/11 Tribute 2024. And this is organized by South Asia Liberty. And as the anniversary of September 11, 2001, we are paying our tributes to those who lost their lives in that tragic incident. We aim to commemorate the resilience and strength that emerged in the face of tragedy. Let's never forget the impact of 9/11 and continue to honor those whose lives were forever changed. So this is the today's discussion, and we have 9 panelists here. I will introduce all of them one by one. Before that, we can have 1 or 2 minutes of silence in remembrance of those of that tragic event. Okay, so let's start. I hope all the panelists are here. I will introduce them one by one, and I hope they will be shown. The first one is Joseph Edward. He is a human rights activist and previously worked as an environmental health and safety manager. Number 2 panelist is Benjamin Baird. He is a public affairs specialist who organizes grassroots advocacy campaigns in support of Middle East Forum projects. He's a U.S. Army infantry veteran, and his writing can be found at National Review, New York Post, Jerusalem Post, and other prominent media outlets. Third one is Amar Islam. He is a lawyer and political analyst who is also 9/11 spectator, who was 15 minutes away from the Pentagon area. Number 4, Shakila Mujaddi. She's an Afghan American refugee living in Texas and working with Afghan community to improve the newly arrived refugees services. Number 5, Khalida Nawabi. She is a woman activist and a lawyer of Afghan origin. 6th panelist is Shabir Ahmed. He is working as a civil engineer since 1981, worked with different civil engineering companies and agencies of the government in the USA since 1992. 7, Dhanraj Kuruvilla. He is from Michigan. He worked as medical records and pharmacy tech fields. 8th panelist is Emmanuel Shebaz. He is a human rights activist and religious minorities right activist. 9th person is Mufti Masood. He is a Mufti. A Mufti is an Islamic scholar and is authorized to make legal decisions. So these are the 9 speakers, panelists for today's event. And everybody can see each other. I can see only myself.
Yeah, everyone can see, but if everyone can turn on their videos.
Yes, please everyone turn on their videos. So when I call each and everyone's name one by one, we'll have 5 minutes to talk about them, and to 5 minutes of speech, and you can share your thought and your contribution about the event. So first one will be Mr. Joseph Edward. Mr. Joseph, over to you.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Today is actually a day which is, for me, it's a very stunning day, because on that September morning, 23 years ago, hell, heartache, and horror came from the skies. And recalling that fateful day of September the 11th, or 9/11 as we all know it,
Mhm.
is when the images of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center plummeted
Mhm.
to the ground, badly damaged the Pentagon, and left some 3,000 Americans dead. And this is my own thought. We now know what we didn't know on that day, that the terrorist attack had been building for more than a decade. And the villains that day in New York, Washington, and in Pennsylvania were Islamic religious fanatics juiced on hate and bloodlust as dictated in their so-called holy book they call the Quran. And I'm being very straightforward about it.
Right.
I don't sugarcoat my words. We can see how over the past 23 years from the day of that incident, acts of violence, killings have continued relentlessly. And there are also people who are contributing towards that. For instance, like men like Omar Suleiman, and then you have Mohammed Hijab from the UK. They are the guys who are fueling all this animosity towards the rest of, I would say, the non-Muslim world. It's very tragic situation right now. I live in Canada, and I would say hundreds of terrorism attacks later, it appears as though even Canada has learned nothing from that day. Comfortable in our own anti-American smugness, we are the victims of our own peculiar faculty, lodge aesthetics. I'm sure many of you already know, but we can take a quick peek at the last 6 weeks. Niagara police arrested a 21-year-old boy, young man. He was actually making explosives in the basement of his house. Then we have a Pakistani citizen who came into Canada by the name of Muhammad Shahzeb Khan, 20-year-old, who was planning a terrorist attack in New York on October the 7th. And he got the Canadian RCMP worked very closely with the US intelligence, and they apprehended him. And then, of course, we have an ongoing case with a father-son terror tag team, Muhammad El-Dadi and his son Mustafa El-Dadi. His son is 26 years old, came here on a student visa, apparently, and they were planning a deadly attack on, in a Jewish community in Toronto. So when you look at all the cycle, you can see that 9/11 was just the beginning. And it hasn't stopped. It just keeps escalating and getting even worse. And the Western government are so blind to this that they're not looking at the big picture. My last word would be, we have to wake up. The world has to wake up to see the evil behind it. Thank you. Can't hear you.
You're on mute, Nandini.
Thank you very much, Joseph Ji. It was a great speech. I totally agree with you. I'm sure everybody else is. And next, we are going towards Benjamin Baird, Mr. Benjamin Baird. Next speaker, Mr. Benjamin.
Thank you. First, for having me amongst such esteemed company here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss 9/11, which is such an important day in history, in world history, in fact. It's a day that changed everything, and not necessarily in the way that we would think about it 23 years ago.
I think he lost his connection.
Yeah.
We can proceed with other speaker.
Okay.
Okay. He joined again.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Benjamin Baird.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm back. So a little bit of background about myself really quick. I'm the director of MEF Action. This is an activism project of the Middle East Forum. We're a think tank that works to advance American interests in the Middle East and to protect Western values against Middle Eastern threats. We've been around since 1994. Our founder, Daniel Pipes, from the very beginning has been saying, making predictions about the importance of countering radical Islam. And of course, many of those predictions came through with 9/11, after which the Middle East Forum and Daniel Pipes were suddenly very popular in their opinions and in very high demand. Okay, so everyone remembers where they were 9/11. It's kind of a thing to where were you when this event happened? When you saw the towers fall. My story, I think, is about as American as it comes. I was a freshman in college at the time. I'd gone out the night before, and so I slept through the first couple hours of this horrible event. And if you recall, 9/11 was on a Tuesday, so that gives you an idea of how serious I took my studies at the time. But in all seriousness, 9/11 actually impacted me very deeply. It encouraged me to join the U.S. Army as an infantryman. I went on to serve for 10 years, 3 of which were spent in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'll discuss my thoughts on Afghanistan here in a moment, but before I'd like to go back to 9/11. If you remember, this country hasn't been truly as united as it was since September 12th. There was a moment when, sort of an iconic moment when President Bush visited the ruins of the World Trade Centers, and people in the crowd, the workers, said they can't hear him, and he said, "I can hear you." Bush actually had a 90% approval rating at the time, something we haven't experienced since then, and it's hard to imagine ever experiencing once again. And everyone agreed that we needed to do something about this jihadist threat that resulted in this day. The motto that came out of 9/11, and this is very sadly ironic, was never forget. We all agreed that we would never forget what Osama bin Laden, what Al-Qaeda did to us on that day. We all imagined that we would never get over this tragedy and the brutality that was visited upon us that day. But how soon we did forget. After Iraq and Afghanistan, events like Abu Ghraib, Edward Snowden, the narrative of that day and its aftermath, it slowly began to change. Soon America was not known for defending itself from genocidal jihadists, but for waging forever wars against Muslim nations. American law enforcement at the time did an incredible job of stopping terrorist acts before they happened. Dozens of large and small attacks were averted. Terror finance networks were disrupted. You may have heard of the Holy Land Foundation. We avoided another 9/11, and partially from keeping the fighting in the Middle East, but also because of the professionalism and expertise of our police and intelligence. Still, the FBI and the NYPD were soon attacked for what they called meritless surveillance of mosques. If you read the New York Times or the Washington Post today, the story is that of police and intelligence overreaching after 9/11 against persecuted Muslim Americans. Despite our promise to never forget, today 9/11 is spoken of in terms of Muslims all around the world suffering at the hands of America's war on terror. They are now the victims, not the attackers. The greatest victims were not the 3,000 people who died in the towers and in the Pentagon. No, it was Muslims who supposedly suffered a backlash. And so 9/11 is now today about anti-Muslim persecution. And this isn't just a theory. They teach this stuff in our classrooms. Islamist interest groups all across the United States, like a group called Teaching While Muslim, they have a 9/11 curriculum that they've convinced many school districts to adopt and implement today. CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, is involved in this effort today. Its 9/11 lesson plan teaches kids about the invariably positive Muslim responses to 9/11 attacks. It characterizes these as international expressions of solidarity with America from Muslim-majority nations. Meanwhile, we all know that Muslims in nations across the world, from Cairo to the Palestinian territories, were dancing in the streets and burning American flags on 9/11. Furthermore, if you look at CARE's teaching directives, they advise educators to avoid using language that validates the claim of 9/11 attackers by associating their acts of mass murder with Islam and Muslims. Fair enough, but what about associating these acts with Islamism, the fundamentalist ideology that inspired the perpetrators on 9/11? Elsewhere, CARE makes the claim that Islamism is a fictional term with no Arabic equivalent, effectively denying students the right to understand the motivation behind the 9/11 attacks. According to CARE, words like Islamic terrorists, jihadists, and radical Islamic terrorists are likewise inappropriate for describing the 9/11 hijackers and their enablers. This is what American children are being taught in our school buildings today. For most Americans, Iraq and Afghanistan have blurred together and are more or less one big anti-Muslim war theater. So when the supposed premise for Iraq didn't go so well, Americans became equally fed up with the war in Afghanistan. And we as a nation lost our heart to fight in both. Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan remains one of the biggest disgraces in U.S. history. If you think about it, we invaded Afghanistan with more or less a few thousand soldiers, many of them fighting on horseback, who joined with the Northern Alliance and with help from American air power, took it to the Taliban and defeated them and sent them running. And at the time when we withdrew from Afghanistan, we had a very small amount of soldiers. So it took very little manpower and resources to keep the Taliban at bay. But it wasn't worth the investment, and we gave it up to them. And so all the sacrifices and blood and treasure were essentially done to build Afghanistan up and to saturate it with military equipment, only to hand it back to the Taliban. And the situation in Iraq isn't much better. Today, the Islamic Republic of Iran is entrenched in Iraqi society, government, military, politics. It may not be an outright proxy to Iran, but it's awful close. There's IRGC-backed militias that attack American troops all the time and our allies, and we refuse to even designate them as terrorist organizations. And so this motto of never forget that was made 23 years ago is something of a farce today. We've certainly forgotten. And not only this, we've bought into the enemy's propaganda about our own values and cultures. There was a small positive moment, 10/7, if you can get anything positive from it at all, has reminded us of the destructive ideology of Islamism and what it can bring. But sadly, I think 9/11, the lesson we learned from that is people will once again forget. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. And we learned a lot from you. And, since you joined the army after that incident, hats off to you, and you did a lot. We also just to read your post, your New York Post, Jerusalem Post, and whatever media you have written. So thank you so very much, Mr. Benjamin. And next is Mr. Amar Islam, who is also a 9/11 spectator.
Good evening. September 11, this is 23rd anniversary of this tragic day, where the day I pay respect to these martyrs and those who have lost their lives in that tragic event. And I do respect those families still. I know at least one in my area whose son and daughter-in-law passed away and never got their body back in Trade Center. And also I do pay respect to the martyrs and those who have lost their life in Pentagon. The moment in Pentagon, the plane crashed in the middle of that building and damaging a corner, I was just 12 minutes away in Arlington. I remember freshly, still now, that that day I was about to bring my wife to the hospital, and I was waiting for her in my living room. My neighbor came and knocked my door. She said, turn on the TV and see what's happening. Then I saw already the first tower is hit and it's demolishing. The live telecast is going on. And in the meantime, after a few minutes, I think 10, 15 minutes, Pentagon happened. And then we are seeing that the second tower is being hit. And the moment that happened, all the traffic's closed. Towards DC, Route 50, Route 66, and any other routes, traffic's all stalled for a whole day. And the horrible thing is people from here and there close by tried to bring all those bodies to the hospital. It was a horror. I witnessed. I will never forget that, and I will never forgive those terrorists for doing such a tragic damage to the nation. But not only they stopped there, actually they are globally very active from them. And the superpowers, in some sections, they are nourishing them. I have very great talk with a lot of organizations, activists. They say they are trying their level best, and I see their writings and their work that they are fighting for it. But in the government level, they have the list of banned organizations, Islamic terrorist organizations, but those groups are working for that. Tragically, they are not in their ban list, and they are being funded, and they are being made work in different area of this world. Very recently, we have seen that in Asia, they have used this section of people, these terrorist organizations, to commit the Arab Spring style ousting the head of states of Bangladesh. And then when they do that, what is happening? These groups, this terrorist group, they get more energy. And finally, what happened is, when we can say name is in 2012, Rizal Nafiz. He was arrested and he was being he's in jail for 30 years now. So one can be 30 years. But the thing is, when you're nourishing the whole group, globally, they are flying around and they are acting on your purpose, and you are creating the snake again. And once you are nourishing the snakes are always snake. And one day this snake will damage you inland. At that time, you will not have that power to tackle them because you notice them. The numbers are big. It's exploding. Right now in Bangladesh, Hizb ut-Tahrir and Jamaat-e-Islami and everybody, they are just occupying the key positions headed by Dr. Yunus, who is so-called democratic friend of Clinton Foundation. And we are hoping a lot of good thing about him, but he is sitting on the terror group. How can we think that tomorrow will not happen something bad? Either you have to demolish this terrorist group, or if you keep it like that, then what happened? That will happen like September 11 tragic event again. That's a death toll. That's the penalty for being nourishing those type of group. It will come back to you. So see that what happened. When Brigadier Shakhawat, he said not all police firing is not from the police firing. So they sorted out a bullet called 7.6 mm, which is not being used by any police department. So he asked for investigation. Right away, he was removed from there. So something is going on in a bag, and it is identified in unofficially those who are expert of bullets and ammunitions. They said these bullets are being used by NATO. Now we can understand that. Who is behind that? So all these things that when happen and using the militant group who is preaching and fighting for global Sharia law, to establish Sharia law all over the world. So it's taking a toll. It will take a toll, and a big toll. And you see, wherever the so-called Arab Spring happened, even 10 years before, now after 10 years, those citizens of this country, they are saying that nothing good happened to this country unless it meets the interest of stakeholders, those who wanted something and they got it. By doing the Arab Spring, they ousted the leaders, those who are very loyal to their country. They don't want those people to be as a head of states. And of course, we go there and commit some Arab Spring-like thing and oustate those head of states and establish those parties, those groups that I like. Just puppet person in Afghan, puppet person in Iraq, something happening like that. It's what good things we are giving, what good things. It is relatively definition is not fixed. People are looking into that side. It is defined as per interested parties, thought. If somebody is saying that is good, I'm saying that is bad. I'm saying that is not good for the country of that, the citizen of that country. But of course, we don't like people who don't like us. But that is a nation. That is a nation. That is a separate nation. They have their own national objects and aims and goals. That's why each and every states or each and every countries, nations are individual and unique and sovereign. So we should proceed with some vibes that gives a liberty. That's not a liberty in the name of democracy or in the name of rights. We have seen that Human Rights Watch, when their party suffered, then they say there is a human rights violation. When their party, the opponent suffered, they keep mum. So the value of human rights organizations diminishes like anything globally. Now they don't have a lot of country people, they don't like this type of human rights dialogues. Why? Because we are biased. We talk biased. We think biased. We don't think, we forgot to think about neutrality, unbiased, equal for all, fair for all. No. We are day by day, decades after decades, creating nafis and nafis after nafis and after nafis. All those nafis, when comes together, there will be no time to correct ourselves. That's the end of my dialogue today. Thank you, Dr. Nandini, for your excellent moderating, and thanks to other speakers. And I'll be waiting to hear others' valuable speeches. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Amarji. We got to know lots and lots of interesting facts, which are very harsh but true. Thank you so much for bringing those up. And then we really appreciate your each and every words. It's a great presentation. Next, I will call Shakila Mujaddidi. Shakila. Mrs. Shakila. Next speaker.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Shakila Mujahidi. I'm a human rights activist, women's rights activist. I just want everybody to be alive activist kind of person. I work with the refugees. I worked with the military for a while. I probably have been in more protests than you've been alive. I was in the Iranian protests. I lived in Pakistan when it happened in 78, 79. I was in all that turmoil. I was there when Ronald Reagan first visited. I watched the prime minister explode on TV for Pakistan not that long ago. I remember that day. I was there in 9/11 that morning. I was taking my son to the doctor. When the first plane hit, my sister called me and she said, "Turn the TV on." And I was unfolding my son and putting a diaper on him. And I said, "Why? It looks like a movie." We have a movie. I forgot what it was back then. Bruce Willis worked in it. It was made in New York. I thought it was just they were making another movie. I just turned it down. I drove to the clinic. By the time I got to the clinic and I walked in, all the doctors had come out and they're watching the TV. And that's when the plane in Pennsylvania hit. Pentagon had already been hit. So that day changed not American lives, but lives everywhere because of what happened. And, the gentleman earlier, he came and he said anti-Muslim, anti-this, but that's not true. That was not Islam that happened. That was very political. It was a war. We make money on war and little people die. And we're calling it collateral damage. And on both sides, there were a lot of life loss to this day. And people say, we won't forget. We've forgotten already. Well, let's just be honest. All the people that have passed away, we honor them in different ways. I was just at the 9/11 site about 2 months ago. And they have changed it from that. They've done so many different steps. I've been there so many times. I was there last time when Biden took office and he got there. I think it was the first year. They did a big event. Everybody was there. And I watched it, and slowly, like I said, everybody slowly forgot. And now we're making it into religion and we're making it into other stuff where it really affected our lives here in the US. Whether you were Muslim, whether you were Hindu or Sikh, everybody just rose against us. They didn't know what religion we were. Just if you were a brown person, you were targeted. It was very unfortunate. I lost a lot of my Desi friends in that. Right here in Houston, there was a Sikh guy that was wearing a turban and he was attacked and killed. And there were several other ones that were attacked. And like I said, a lot of innocent people lost their lives. That day changed a lot. But unfortunately, we talk about war. I'm a child of war. I lived under bunkers for over a year. I lost my school. It burned down. I saw a friend of mine explode in front of me. Lots of things happens in a war as you grow up as a child. And there's times when I just went back for Operation Allies Welcome, and I served with the United States Army, I saw a lot of these kids that just recently came back as refugees from Afghanistan, and watching them, it was like I went through it all over again. It was very difficult. And as my friends have watched me, I changed a lot through the course of the last 1.5 to 2 years as these events have occurred. And these events have occurred since 9/11. So 9/11 changed the course of the world. And to just give it a religious outlook, that's ridiculous because this is geopolitics and this is all kinds of politics. And unfortunately, when it comes to politics, you're going to lose innocent lives. But what I want to ask the world is who did this? We did this as taxpayers. Okay, you had terrorists. Who created these terrorists? Our governments created this terrorists on both sides. We financed them. Then let me ask you another question. Who put the guns in their hands? We did. The taxpayers did. Follow the trail of money. And unfortunately, anytime you have a group of people that do something like that and an event happens, everybody goes, oh my gosh, terrorists. These are awful people doing awful things. Throughout my life, I have seen different events that were given the name terrorism in different ways. But unfortunately, these are small or big wars where innocent people lose their lives. And some of these events changed the course of the world. This was just one of them. And in memory to them, because I lost a friend that was on that plane in Pennsylvania that hit the ground, and I lost some friends here, and I lost some friends and family members back home. And to keep their memory, as long as I can live, I would like to always on this day take a moment of silence or light a candle. And I thank every one of the panelists for being here. Your information is great, but before you share these information, just focus on one thing. It's not always about religion. These groups that you guys are sharing these stories about, these groups are not just for religious purposes. These are for political purposes. This is for power. This is for money. And they're just given these names because that's what we do. We like to have excuses because it makes us feel better if the bad guy has a certain name or a label to it. These are all kids that they pick up off the street that are homeless, or families that don't have income. I've been in that part of the world. And all of a sudden, he, she, or whoever becomes a terrorist. So let's take technology, put it in the world, and teach our children that we can move forward without fighting. We don't need guns. Let's learn from Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King. Let's try to empower leaders like that and teach our children, the next generations, that we don't need guns in order to communicate. All we need is a simple plan, good leadership, and a pen. And all of us from different nations, different religious background, sit together in a harmonious way and celebrate different holidays and watch our kids grow without them being shot, blown up, or given a horrible title because we couldn't defend them. As leaders, as parents, you raise your child. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're sitting on a tip of a mountain or you're sitting in a palace. We're all parents, and nobody wants to lose their child and feel that pain. I always feel the pain of every child, whether you want to call them a terrorist, whether you want to call them a homeless kid, or whether you call them the untouchables. Whatever these children are, they're kids. It doesn't matter what part of the world they came from. The world is moving forward. We're so educated, yet as much education as the world has received from the Stone Age, we're still fighting each other. We're still hurting each other. We're not growing fruit. This planet was not made for us to hurt each other. It was supposed to be, we're here for a short amount of time to enjoy the fruit of our labor. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone. And
thank you so very much, Shakila ji. Thank you very much. And we appreciate your empathy towards the children, kids. And also that it's a great thing that you are working with the Afghan community to improve the newly arrived refugee services. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
Next
Have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much. We loved it. Thanks. Next speaker, we are calling Mrs. Khalida Nawawi. Mrs. Khalida, over to you.
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much. Good evening, all. I appreciate for this chance to be talked on this platform. As you know, my name as a woman activist, Afghan lawyer, still in the process to be a lawyer here. I can't remember the day of the 9/11 attack. Indeed, I was in Pakistan at that time. These horrible things affect not only us, but the whole world at that time. But it was a good sign for Afghanistan because after 9/11, there was a change back home in Afghanistan. A new future for Afghanistan where they think to fight the terrorists and terrorism. This gives a chance for our people to live a freedom life after the 9/11 attack and the NATO, I could say, the NATO presence in Afghanistan. We enjoyed like 20 years of this progress, although it was not that much what the people were or the world was expecting for this progress. but still we had a good progress in every field, in education, agriculture, in our infrastructure, in freedom of speech and choices, in women rights. But unfortunately, we lost a lot of people during this fight for terrorists and terrorism. The loss of 9/11 is on one side, the loss of the people of the NATO forces. I pay special tribute to them because every family that has lost their family members, I feel regret because their blood goes not for nothing, in my opinion, because we fight for something that we hand over back to them. I feel so sorry. I have not the courage to face the family of those soldiers that lost their lives. I mean, the NATO soldiers, beside our Afghan loss that we are suffering from 40 years. I have not the courage to face because I have not a single word to say what you fight for, what your life is lost for, and what we give back those the country back to the people that we fight for. This handover back to Taliban is, I don't know, maybe I'm too small to understand this political game, but it was very disappointing. This 21st century of new era of technology. Now the peoples are not blind. Mostly the people understand what the politics game is for. Sometimes in the name of terrorists, sometimes in the name of religion, fundamentalism, and so forth. But I'm disappointed and unhappy for my country because my country is the one who's suffering 40 years. Now my country is a ground of the terrorists, a playground where they can play the game where they want to play. It is disappointing because my people suffer. Me, I born in war. I live in war. I migrated in different countries to make my life in a peaceful life, but my people are still not in peace. So my mind is not in peace at all. So that one question I would say, like, what is this game for? Of course, this is always a power game, politics, economic stability to make one country fight and the other can enjoy. But they never think the human life that is created by the God cannot be created by the human beings. The other things they created and get for the power reason, but they lost or they're trying to lose the human lives for the reason. In fact, the terrorist or terrorism will not finish because this is a politics game. It will play by this name, like Al-Qaeda, but that name, Taliban, by other name in near future. You can see now what is going on in Bangladesh. So there is another name to that. But the support, the backup that they receive from the countries in the name of this fight is ridiculous because they thought that they are trying to get this power and make other people in war to enjoy themselves. But remember, maybe I will be alive or dead sometime, not now, but some after 20, 30 years. It is a saying, a proverb in my Afghan culture. When you burn your clothes, it means that you will be also burning in that cloth. If you put a fire, you will be thinking that I will not be affected, but remember that you will be also affected by that. Maybe not now, but later on you will realize this effect. I'm here to discuss the 9/11. One way of thinking is that, oh, it was a nice time that my country was in peace. Now I'm thinking again, oh my God, what have done back to my country? Now again, they are under a terrorist rulers or fundamentalist group. They are not letting my women and girls to go to school, get their education, fundamental right. We are in the Stone Age. Me as a woman activist, I feel so disappointed. I feel helpless for my women and girls that are suffering from that time, from that period. But the people that are having the power, having the policy to change that policy against those people are not doing anything. That are all powerful people that have the policy changer or decision maker. They're playing a game again. Why we are here, we are just discussing this topic. I hope this discussion will end it this year. We will have not such an incident on such an issue again to come and discuss back history and the upcoming worst situation of the name of terrorism, fundamentalism, and so forth. Me as a woman and as an Afghan girl, I just say that every human being has the right to enjoy free air, have the right to talk free of speech, have the right to get education. This is fundamental right. We are not asking much more. We are writing this or asking for these simple rights that as a human being, we have the right to enjoy and have it. I will just ask our panelists and the people who are listening this discussion to consider, to think about it, to start to make your influence against this invasion and this terrorist group right now that's in the country, which is a political game. But I'm sure nobody cares about my country. It's a ground to play, and they are playing the game. Thank you so much. I appreciate the listeners and the great moderator. And I'm really inspired by other speakers, the way they discuss this topic today. And I will be happy to, if there is a question session, we can do that too. Thank you.
May I say a few words?
Let us complete with all this.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate your presentation. And yeah, I totally agree that if the terrorists think about the simple human rights, that we can change the world. But thank you so much for being sharing your all the experience and especially the women's conditions and everything from Afghan. Thank you. So next speaker is Mr. Shabir Ahmed. Shabir ji.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me in this forum of distinguished speakers. Yeah, in 1995, there was a movie created by Mr. Steven Emerson, and in that movie, he showed the title of the movie was Jihad in America. And in that movie, he showed how jihadists were training, how jihadists were coming and going, living in the United States. Unfortunately, his words and warnings were not taken seriously, I think. And the worst thing happened. The Islamic terrorists attacked USA on this day that changed the whole world. In the aftermath of the terrorist attacks on 9/11, the United States government took harsh steps against the Islamic terrorists and militants. We all expected that there would be sustained efforts against the spread of the Islamic fanaticism. But we did not see any sustained efforts to go after the jihadi teachings of Islam. In fact, prevention of these teachings of Islam would have eventually resulted in the control of the growth of Islamism and Islamists in the world. The Indian subcontinent suffered the most from the ill effects of the Islamic fundamentalism. I am from Bangladesh, so I have some good knowledge on the effects of Islamic fundamentalism in that part of the world. Starting from the pre-partition days in 1947 till today, the people of the countries in the subcontinent are going through horrendous situation due to the same problem. In 1971, Bangladesh experienced the horrible acts of the Islamic militant forces like Al-Badr, Al-Shams and Rajakars. In particular, Al-Badr and Al-Shams acted more like ISIS-type forces alongside the Pakistani military. The student wing of Jamaat-e-Islami in 1971 was known as Islamic Chhatra Sangha. In 1971, Jamaat converted that Islamic Chhatra Sangha into an armed force called Al-Badr. Then Jamaat-e-Islami took the lead to organize the members of other Islamic parties, namely Nizam-e-Islam and other non-Jamaat-e-Islamists, to form another paramilitary type force called Al-Shams. Rajakars were formed by Pakistani military by recruiting the pro-Pakistani members from the general public. Apart from other crimes and killings, Al-Badr helped killing about 1,000 intellectuals, including academicians, journalists, and many other professionals. In 1971, in general, it was a Bengali genocide, and in particular, it was a Hindu genocide. Anyone identified as a Hindu or a member of Awami League was not spared by the Pakistani military and their allied Islamic paramilitary forces. After independence, the first government under Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman banned all the Islamic political parties through constitution. After the killing of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and change of his government in 1975, the army government under General Zia, the founder of Bangladesh Nationalist Party or BNP, lifted the ban on the Islamic parties. And there were efforts from the administration to bring these parties back into the mainstream politics in the name of multi-party democracy, freedom of doing politics, and inclusiveness. The student wing of Jamaat Islami reemerged as Islamic Chhatra Shibir. There was pressure on Awami League, an opposition party at the time, to accept the reality and compromise with Jamaat. Unfortunately, now through the ouster of the Awami League government, again under Sheikh Hasina on August 5, 2024, Jamaat Islam and another of their associate organization called Hifazat Islam have come out now into the front line in Bangladesh. The anti-Awami League civil society members, some of these members are now part of the government, are directly or indirectly supporting Jamaat Islam and Hifazat Islam. Just like in 1975, when the Islamic parties were brought into the mainstream national politics, these civil society members are now helping bring these Islamic parties, close to the helm of power in the name of suppressing fascism of the previous government in Bangladesh. You all probably know what is going on, and we all can guess where Bangladesh is heading. Former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina remained steadfast to try the war criminals of 1971. She facilitated the process despite obstacles in finishing the trial of the war criminals that included the high-ranking leaders of Jamaat Islami. Her actions and steps were not accepted by some countries and mainly by Pakistan. Now, through the ouster of Awami League government, the pro-Pakistani forces have become successful to get a government that appears going to be more aligned with Pakistan. This government has recently allowed several high-profile Islamic terrorists to get out of the jail. They are following the footsteps of the rulers of Pakistan. The scenarios in Bangladesh are still evolving. Probably there are more things to observe and more things to see in the near future. I think that there was some success in controlling the Islamic terrorism in the last 8 years or so. The economic progress was significant in the last 15 years. Now we see more uncertainties in all these areas. There are burning, looting, and all other forms of anarchy. If not controlled, then it may lead to a scenario where Islamic militancy will only flourish in Bangladesh. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. I wanted to bring this topic of Bangladesh, what's going on about the recent scenario, but thank you very much, Shabirji, for covering it. It's a great speech. Okay, next we have Mr. Dhanraj Kuruvilla. Mr. Dhanrajji from Michigan.
You're on mute. Dhanrajji, you are on mute. Kindly unmute yourself.
Hi. Actually, currently I am in India, and good morning from here. Actually, I did not intend to give a speech at all. I just wanted to hear whatever others have to say. And actually, I became a citizen of the US since 2005 only. So whenever this happened, I was in India. So I feel very sad about those things and unbelievable. So and in fact, we feel helpless because this happens in those countries, and we don't have any control at all. So, whatever happens in Bangladesh is very sad and unfortunate. What I believed was Ms. Khalida was doing a very good thing, and the economy was very good under her rule also. So I can't believe such things happen so suddenly. So I don't have anything to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhanrajji. And since you are in India, I just want to gist about this current situation in India. What you think about this? Citizens of West Bengal are also suffering at this moment. And all of you know that for the recent horrific incident involving the gang rape and the murder of young female doctor resident in Arjikar Medical College. And unfortunately, I'm an alumni from Arjikar Medical College. I passed out from there long back, but that time there was not this much cruelty and injustice, especially in the medical field, and that kind of scenario we could not think that it could happen. So all Bengalis of North America are spellbound when we had this heinous crime against a young helpless woman while doing her civic duties in a city public hospital at night, with thousands of poor patients needing life-saving service of physicians like her. By the way, we are coming back to the topic. That's another another topic and very tragic incident. But we are coming back to the topic of after Dhanrajji, we have Mr. Emmanuel Shebas.
Thank you.
And another human rights activist.
So he couldn't make it, so because of some urgency, couldn't make it. So let us move ahead.
Let's move forward. Next, we have Mr. Mufti Masood. And we have a translator, I think, for Mufti, Muftiji. And translator's name is Shabir ji.
Shabir Ahmed, yeah.
Shabir.
Thank you for inviting me here. I'm Mufti Abdullah Al Masood from Bangladesh. I'm not fluent in English, that's why I need a translator. Partly, I'm thanking everyone to be here. আমি বাংলাদেশের কওমি আচ্ছা সাব্বির ভাই আমি কি শুরু করব?
শুরু করেন আপনি থামলে আমি আপনার ট্রান্সলেট করব।
আমি বাংলাদেশের কওমি মাদ্রাসায় পড়েছি এবং আমি একসময় ইমাম ছিলাম এবং কওমি মাদ্রাসার প্রিন্সিপালও ছিলাম। তো আমি প্রথমে শুরু করব যে ইসলামে আমি যেটা দেখেছি, কারণ আমি নিজে তালেবান ছিলাম অ্যাকচুয়ালি, অর্থাৎ আমার মেন্টালিটিও তালেবানের ছিল, আমাকে সেভাবে সৃষ্টি করা হয়েছে। আমি আই এম ক্রিয়েটেড বাই পলিটিক্যাল মুসলিমস। এরপরে আমি আমার ওই পেশা, যেটা ইসলাম প্রচারের পেশা, সেটা ছেড়ে দিয়েছি। সাব্বির ভাই।
Yeah, I was a mufti and I was an imam. Also, I was a principal of a madrasa, and I was raised as a Taliban. In fact, I was groomed to be a Taliban, and I was going through this phases with Taliban mentality.
থ্যাংক ইউ। আমি বলবো যে আমি যেটা দেখেছি, ইসলামিক জিহাদিদের তিনটা তিনটা কি বলে সেক্টর বা তিন ভাবে তারা কাজ করে, বা তিনটা গ্রুপ হয়ে কাজ করে। একদল হচ্ছে ইসলামিক জিহাদিদের ক্রিয়েটর, আর একদল যাদেরকে আমি বলতে পারি অ্যাপোলজিস্ট, যারা হচ্ছে সবসময় জিহাদিদেরকে ডিফেন্ড করে, তাদের পক্ষে তারা বিভিন্ন রকম আর্গুমেন্ট দাঁড় করায়। এরা ইউজুয়ালি ইসলামিক ইন্টেলেকচুয়ালস। আর তৃতীয় যারা, তারা হচ্ছে সরাসরি পার্টিসিপেটর বা ক্রিয়েটেড, যারা বুঝলে এই পলিটিক্যাল ইসলামের দ্বারা যারা ক্রিয়েটেড। তো আমি সেই ক্রিয়েটেড দের মধ্যে একজন ছিলাম। আমি একটু পরেই শুরু করব 9/11-এর সময় আমি কি করেছি এবং কি কোথায় ছিলাম, সেই গল্পটা আমি একটু পরেই বলছি।
Yeah, I'd say like there are three groups of people that work in a coherent fashion. One is like those who create Talibans, and the other who actually nurture the intellectuals, and other they actually in a way they help them to grow with Taliban mentality. And the third group is those who use them and who are basically political parties that actually support the Taliban. And I'll mention you what I saw on 9/11 and in the aftermath.
আমি বাংলাদেশের 2001-এ বাংলাদেশের একটি কওমি মাদ্রাসায় পড়তাম। কওমি মাদ্রাসা হচ্ছে এখানে তালেবান তৈরি হয়। ভারতে, বাংলাদেশে, পাকিস্তানে এবং আফগানিস্তানে অনেকগুলো কওমি মাদ্রাসা আছে। শুধুমাত্র বাংলাদেশেই আছে 5 লক্ষ কওমি মাদ্রাসা বা তার চেয়ে বেশি। হাফ মিলিয়ন কওমি মাদ্রাসা আছে বাংলাদেশে। সেখানে সৃষ্টি করা হয় যাদেরকে, তারা তালেবান। যখন 2001-এ টুইন টাওয়ারে হামলা হলো, সে সময় মাদ্রাসার ছাত্র, মাদ্রাসায় পড়ি, তখন আমাদেরকে জিহাদি ট্রেনিং দেয়া হতো বাংলাদেশে। আমি জিহাদি ট্রেনিং গ্রহণ করেছিলাম বাংলাদেশের হরকতুল জিহাদ নামে একটা সংগঠন আছে, সেই সংগঠনের যারা সদস্য তাদের দ্বারা। তখন আমিও ব্রেন ওয়াশড ছিলাম, কারণ আমি মাদ্রাসার ছাত্র ছিলাম। তালেবানদের দ্বারা আমি ব্রেন ওয়াশড ছিলাম। আমারও স্বপ্ন ছিল যে আফগানিস্তানে আমেরিকা অভিযান চালালে আমেরিকা পরাজিত হবে এবং তালেবানরা বিজয়ী হবে, এবং আমার স্বপ্ন ছিল যে বাংলাদেশেও ইসলামী শাসন কায়েম হবে বা ইসলামিক স্টেট তৈরি হবে 2001 সালে।
Yeah, I was a student in a Qawmi madrasa in Pakistan, Bangladesh. These Qawmi madrasas are the institutions where Talibans are born, Talibans are created through training. I took training as a jihadist, and I was under Harkatul Jihad. I had a dream to go after jihad, and when I heard about US going to invade Afghanistan, I firmly believe that US will be defeated and jihad will be successful.
এবার আমি বলি যে 2001 সালে যখন বাংলাদেশে আফগানিস্তানে যখন আমেরিকা অভিযান শুরু করলো, সেই সময় বাংলাদেশের সমস্ত কওমি মাদ্রাসা, প্রায় 5 লক্ষ বা 5 লাখেরও বেশি কওমি মাদ্রাসায় তালেবানের পক্ষে প্রার্থনা হয়েছে, দোয়া হয়েছে। সেই দোয়াতে আমি এবং আমরা অংশগ্রহণ করেছি। আমরা প্রচন্ডভাবে কান্নাকাটি করতাম, আল্লাহর কাছে প্রার্থনা করতাম যে আল্লাহ তুমি তালেবানকে বিজয় দান করো আমাদের শিক্ষকদের সাথে, আমাদের শিক্ষকদের নেতৃত্বে। এবং সেখানে আমরা কুনুতে নাজেলা, এই কুনুতে নাজেলা শব্দটা খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট। মুসলিমদের উপরে কোনো বিপদ আপদ আসলে কুনুতে নাজেলা পাঠ করতে হয়। সেখানে আমাদের শিক্ষকেরা কুনুতে নাজেলা পাঠ করতেন, আমরা সেই কুনুতে নাজেলা পড়তাম এবং কান্নাকাটি করতাম। একই সাথে আমরা বাংলাদেশের ঢাকার রাজপথে তালেবানের পক্ষে বড় বড় মিছিল করেছি। ইনফ্যাক্ট তখন বাংলাদেশের পুলিশের সাথেও আমাদের ফাইট হয়েছে। সেই ফাইটে পুলিশের গুলিতে মানুষ ইনজুর্ড হয়েছে, এটাও সত্য। সেখানে আমরা বলতাম যে আমরা হব তালেবান, বাংলা হবে আফগান, এই স্লোগান দিয়েছিলাম।
Yeah, in 2001, when USA attacked Afghanistan, I was in madrasa in Bangladesh, and we had prayer. We used to pray to Allah for. We used to cry, and we used to say and pray to Allah to get Taliban win in the war. And there are some verses called Kulute Najela. This means when jihad is under attack and when jihadists are trying to win, we used to recite those. And we used to call Bangladesh will be Taliban's, Bangladesh will be like Afghan. So we used to have this chant, this slogan. And we had also fight with the police, and because we used to give these slogans on the streets, and there are madrasa students all around Bangladesh. We had this type of activities at that time to support the jihadists.
আমরা কোরআনের অনেক সময় অনেকে বলে থাকেন যে ইসলাম হচ্ছে একটা পলিটিক্যাল গেম, এবং কথা সত্য, কিন্তু এর পাশাপাশি সবচেয়ে বড় সত্য সেটা হচ্ছে ইসলাম একটা ধর্ম, এবং যারা জিহাদ করে তারা ধর্ম বিশ্বাস থেকেই জিহাদ করে। এবং এরকম এই জিহাদের সূচনা করেছিলেন ইসলামের যিনি ফাউন্ডার, অর্থাৎ মুহাম্মদ ইবনে আব্দুল্লাহ বা মুহাম্মদ নামে আমরা যাকে চিনি। তিনি নিজে জিহাদ স্টার্ট করেছিলেন এবং তিনি বলেছিলেন আল জিহাদ মাউদিন ইলা ইয়াউমিল কিয়ামাহ, অর্থাৎ পৃথিবীর শেষ দিন পর্যন্ত জিহাদ চলমান থাকতে হবে।
Islam is a religion, but there is a part of Islam is jihad, and it was created by Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah, and he preached to continue jihad until the last day of the world.
এই যে আমরা যে আফগানিস্তানে তালেবানকে দেখি এবং আমরা যে আল কায়দাকে দেখি, আল কায়দা সৌদি সালাফি মতাদর্শের, আর আফগানিস্তানে যে তালেবান ক্ষমতায় গেছে তারা হচ্ছে দেওবন্দি মতাদর্শে, দেওবন্দি হানাফি মাযহাবের অনুসারী তারা। এবং তালেবান যে সমস্ত পাঠ্যপুস্তক পড়ে তালেবান হয়েছে, ঠিক সেই একই ধরনের পাঠ্যপুস্তক ভারতের, বাংলাদেশের এবং পাকিস্তানের এবং আফগানিস্তানের কওমি মাদ্রাসায় পড়ানো হয়। এরকম কওমি মাদ্রাসা শুধু বাংলাদেশেই 5 লাখ বা তার চেয়ে বেশি, আমি যেটা বললাম। এবং তালেবান যে সমস্ত পাঠ্যপুস্তক পাঠ করে তালেবান হয়েছে, বাংলাদেশে আমি হুবহু সেই সমস্ত পাঠ্যপুস্তক এবং সেই ধরনের সিলেবাসের অন্তর্ভুক্ত ছিলাম, এবং আমি একই ধরনের পাঠ্যপুস্তক পড়েছি। এরকম তালেবান প্রতি বছর বাংলাদেশে মিনিমাম প্রায় 20 লক্ষ তালেবান তৈরি হচ্ছে প্রায় 5 লাখ কওমি মাদ্রাসা থেকে।
Yeah, Al Qaeda follow Salafi doctrine, and Taliban follow Deoband doctrine. These are Deoband doctrine are mainly taught in Bangladesh in about 500,000 madrasas. I did those, and I was a student of, and I studied those in the madrasa, and there are about 100,000 out of 500,000 madrasas. There are about 2 million students like Talibans are created from out of these 500,000 madrasas.
আমাদের যত সমস্যা বা তালেবানের উত্থান বা ইসলামী মৌলবাদের উত্থান, এর মূলে রয়েছে কওমি মাদ্রাসা। আমাদের দক্ষিণ এশিয়াতে বিশেষ করে আমি কওমি মাদ্রাসাকে বলি হচ্ছে যে ওয়ার্ল্ডস লার্জেস্ট ইনস্টিটিউশনাল রেপ ইন্ডাস্ট্রি। কওমি মাদ্রাসা হচ্ছে পৃথিবীর বৃহত্তম ধর্ষণের প্রতিষ্ঠান। যে কওমি মাদ্রাসায় প্রতিদিন ছেলেদেরকে, আমি আবারও বলছি, ছেলেদেরকে সেখানে ধর্ষণ করা হয়, এবং প্রত্যেকটা কওমি মাদ্রাসায় যদি একটা ধর্ষণ হয় তাহলে এই সমস্ত কওমি মাদ্রাসাগুলোতে প্রতিদিন প্রায় 5 লক্ষ ধর্ষণের ঘটনা সংঘটিত হয়, যেগুলো মিডিয়াতে সাধারণত আসে না। এবং এগুলো নিয়ে নিউজ হয় না, এবং এগুলো পুরো টোটাল মুসলিম কমিউনিটিতে যারা মুসলিমদের লিডার তারা বিষয়গুলোকে হাইড করে রাখে, এগুলো সমাজের সামনে আনতে দেয় না। এভাবেই কিন্তু তালেবান তৈরি হচ্ছে বাংলাদেশে, এবং আফগানিস্তানে এভাবেই তৈরি হয়েছে। এই সত্যটা সবার জানা দরকার।
The root of Taliban's are Qawmi madrasas. Qawmi madrasas are actually, he mentioned before that Qawmi madrasas are originated from Deoband doctrine, and these are there are many young kids. They go to these madrasas and they become victims of rape at an early age, and they. These news do not generally come out into the surface, and these are not mentioned by the authorities, and also these do not come into the press and Muslims, and these are the people, those who are mentally suffer, and they become Talibans. They are taught in a way, and they are abused in a way. They transform eventually into very kind of Talibans.
আমরা এই জিনিসটা মনে হয় আমাদের সবার বোঝা দরকার যে কেন ওসামা বিন লাদেন আমেরিকার বিরুদ্ধে জিহাদের ডাক দিলেন সারা বিশ্ব জুড়ে। এবং আমি 2001 সালেই যেটা নোটিশ করেছি, আমাদের শিক্ষকেরা আমাদের বলেছিলেন যে সারা বিশ্বের সমস্ত মুসলমানদেরকে শেখ ওসামা বিন লাদেন জিহাদের জন্য আহ্বান জানিয়েছেন, এবং সেই জিহাদের কারণ হচ্ছে ইসলামের প্রতিষ্ঠাতা মুহাম্মদ বলেছিলেন যে লা উখরিজান্নাল ইয়াহুদা ওয়ান নাসারা মিন জাজিরাতিল আরব হাত্তা লা আদাআ ইল্লা মুসলিমান। মুহাম্মদ তার মৃত্যুর ঠিক আগ মুহূর্তে বলেছিলেন যে আমি আরব ভূখণ্ড থেকে, পুরো আরব ভূখণ্ড থেকে আমি ইহুদি এবং খ্রিস্টানদেরকে অবশ্যই তাড়িয়ে দেব, এবং আরব ভূখণ্ডে মুসলিম ছাড়া আর কাউকে আমি ছাড়বো না, অর্থাৎ মুসলিম ছাড়া কাউকে আমি এখানে থাকতে দেব না। এবং মোহাম্মদ তার অনুসারীদেরকে অর্ডার দিয়েছিলেন যে আরবে যেন কোনো ইহুদি, খ্রিস্টান এবং অমুসলিমদের বসবাস না হতে না পারে। তো যখন আমেরিকায় বিপুল পরিমাণ সৌদি আরবে, আবারও বলছি, সৌদি আরবে বিপুল পরিমাণ আমেরিকান সৈন্য বসবাস করা শুরু করলো, তাদের নিরাপত্তার জন্য থাকা শুরু করলো, তখন কিন্তু মোহাম্মদের এই যে হাদিস যে আমি ইহুদি নাসারাদেরকে বা ইহুদি খ্রিস্টানদেরকে আরব থেকে বের করে দেব, এই হাদিসের প্রেক্ষিতে বা এই হাদিসের কারণে ওসামা বিন লাদেন সৌদি সরকারের যে কর্মকাণ্ড, তারা যে আমেরিকাকে সৌদি আরবে জায়গা দিয়েছে অর্থাৎ নিরাপত্তার জন্য রেখেছে, সেই বিষয়টা কিন্তু ওসামা বিন লাদেন পছন্দ করেননি, এবং সেই কারণে তিনি সর্বপ্রথম সৌদি সরকারের বিরুদ্ধেই কিন্তু জিহাদের ডাক দিয়েছিলেন এবং বলেছিলেন যে আরব বা পবিত্র আরবের ভূখণ্ড থেকে ইহুদি খ্রিস্টানদেরকে অবশ্যই সরাতে হবে। এখান থেকে কিন্তু লাদেনের বিদ্রোহের সূচনা।
Yeah, why Obama bin Laden wanted to attack USA? Our teacher suggested and supported his call, Osama bin Laden's call. We all will, and they mentioned that we all will eradicate non-Muslims from Arabia. And there is a hadith that calls for the eradication of non-Muslims, specifically Christians or Jewish from the land of Arabia. And Osama bin Laden actually got mad with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's government for USS soldiers staying there. So he called for jihad, and all the teachers of madrasas, they actually supported this call.
সত্যি কথা বলতে এটা খুবই অ্যালার্মিং বিষয় সারা বিশ্বের জন্য যে আমাদের সাউথ এশিয়াতে, আমি আরবের কথাও জানি এবং আমি আরবের অনেকের সাথেই আমার পরিচয় আছে। আমি নিজেও আমার প্রথম ভাষা বাংলা, কিন্তু এরপরে আমি সবচেয়ে ভালো পারি আরবি ভাষা। ইংরেজিটা জন্য আমি একটু কম পারি, কারণ মাদ্রাসায় আমি ইংরেজি শিখিনি। তো আরবের পরিস্থিতিও আমি জানি। আর বাংলাদেশে বা আমাদের সাউথ এশিয়াতে ইসলামী মৌলবাদের উত্থান ঘটছে কওমি মাদ্রাসার হাত ধরে। কওমি মাদ্রাসা কিন্তু বাংলাদেশে দিন দিন বেড়েই চলেছে, এবং কওমি মাদ্রাসার হুজুররা এখন, বা কওমি মাদ্রাসায় যারা ইসলামিক মোল্লা আছে, এই মোল্লারা এখন বাংলাদেশের অনেক অনেক জঙ্গি মোল্লাদেরকে মুক্তি দেওয়া হয়েছে। বর্তমান বাংলাদেশ সরকার তাদেরকে মুক্তি দিয়েছে জেলখানা থেকে, এবং তারা মাজারে হামলা করছে, বিভিন্ন সাংস্কৃতিক অঙ্গনে হামলা করছে, এবং সারা দেশ জুড়ে এক ধরনের অরাজক পরিস্থিতি তৈরি করে রেখেছে। এটাকে যদি ঠেকানো না যায় তাহলে বাংলাদেশেও তালেবানের উত্থান হতে খুব বেশি দেরি লাগবে না, কারণ অলরেডি বাংলাদেশে এখন 50 লাখের উপরে তালেবান রয়েছে। তালেবান বলতে বোঝাচ্ছি কওমি মাদ্রাসার শিক্ষক, ছাত্র এবং এই ধরনের মেন্টালিটি যারা আছে, এটা বাংলাদেশে আছে।
You are on mute. You are on mute, Shabir ji.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know how I became mute. But anyway, to tell the truth, in South Asia, there are Talibans that are growing. My first language is Bengali, so I know Arabic also very well, but I don't know English that much because I was not taught English while I was a student in madrasa. Islamic terrorism is growing out of Qawmi madrasas. The current government in Bangladesh has released about a number of Qawmi madrasa based terrorists, and they are growing. There are about 100,000, mean about 5 million Qawmi madrasa based Islamic extremists out there in Bangladesh. Including students and Talibans, they can easily get. And now there are many of the Qawmi madrasa based Islamic terrorists have been released from jail, and they are now attacking cultural groups, cultural places, and also attacking shrines of Sufi shrines. And if they all organize, it will be a disaster for Bangladesh. They can form a Afghanistan style Taliban country. They can transform Bangladesh into an Afghanistan-style Taliban country.
Okay, I request have another speaking time. If you can wrap up soon and
Okay. I will talk later. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess Nandini ji has some technical issue. So thank you, Mufti Masood ji. Thank you for present. Yeah, so Nandini ji is here.
So after Mufti ji, we have another speaker, Mr. Jamal Hassan. We really enjoyed Mufti ji's speech, and we can, if you have time, we can come back to let him wrap up. But we can take Jamal Hassan ji, and I think that Joseph ji in the meantime wanted to say something. So over to Mr. Jamal.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. This is Jamal Hassan. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes or no?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's nice to hear. I should tell my background. I'm a political analyst and a published author. When this event was going on, I just sent my book cover to Nandini, Dr. Sarkar, and also others, Anand. I think they have received. So they also my articles. Attention, Khalida Nawabi. I was following Afghanistan for many years. In 1989, I wrote an article, and the article link I just sent to Dr. Sarkar and also Adarsh Anand. That article I wrote in 89 after the Soviets withdrew. America also took off from Afghanistan. I alerted many congressmen and senators. They didn't listen to me. And unfortunately, it happened. My proposal, you see in the article, Khalida Nawabi, you can get the link from Dr. Sarkar. Anyway, my proposal was to bring King Zahir Shah in the table. Unfortunately, King Zahir Shah was brought later on. And recently, I listened to a speech by Prince Pahlavi in a conservative forum, and he also said that America missed the bus. Anyway, in 9/11, 2001, I was working at the Department of Justice, from where I could see the Pentagon burning. And incidentally, my office was very close to the then Attorney General, John Ashcroft. In fact, I foresaw 9/11. If you see, I'm not a mystic, but on the 10th of September, I talked to some of my associates that something is going to happen tomorrow. I actually realized when I was working at the Justice that most of the staff, they were sleeping. I tried to wake them, and I used to circulate articles by Khalid Duran, late Khalid Duran, who wrote about Hamburg sale. Actually, Khalid Duran, unfortunately, didn't have a good life in America because the jihadis conspired that he lost many jobs. Finally, he died in Germany, which was his probably place of birth. Anyway, so 9/11 happened. I was not surprised. Anyway, going back to Islamism and others, I want to alert all the law enforcement agencies in America. Muslim Americans, especially young Muslim Americans, has a tendency to tribalize their society. I found out that Muslim Americans try to intermingle among themselves and they don't assimilate. In many cases, the reason was Muslim Brotherhood's influence. I think Dr. Shabir Ahmed and Joseph and Advocate Omar Islam know the influence of Muslim student associations in the university like George Washington, Georgetown, and other universities. This is a radical Islamist organization. Unfortunately, the US government doesn't pay attention to it. Muslim Student Association actually brainwash young Muslim Americans. It's very unfortunate. I would not name them. Some of the panelists know because their children or their nephews are being indoctrinated when they enter the university. They join Muslim Student Association, which is a segregationist, supremacist, I can say, cult-like group. It basically alienates Muslim Americans from other people. That's how Muslims intermingle among themselves. They play games globally. Muslim Americans are tied to other Muslims in the country. Unfortunately, they might have a political agenda, which is dangerous. I want all Americans, Muslim, Christian, Jews, to intermingle, to assimilate. It doesn't happen because of groups like CAI, CAIR, ICNA, ISNA. These are all legal groups. But these groups, what they do? They indoctrinate young Muslim minds. What? With a political agenda. Tomorrow, we will bring caliphate in USA. Look, Justice Department, FBI, NSA, everybody. Mr. Trump, I appeal. Please disband Muslim Brotherhood and Muslim student associations. These are cancerous in America. Okay, now I'm going back to other areas of American, especially Biden administration. I'm not very much in favor of Biden-Harris administration, although I was once a Democrat. They say America wanted a base in, some people say, where? America wanted a base in island of St. Martin's to contain China. What happened? State Department people, are they brain dead, or they look into small tunnel, or they have myopic worldview? What happened? One time to contain Soviet Union, we created the monster of Mujahideen. Mujahideen became Taliban with Pakistan. What happened? Taliban brought Al-Qaeda, Twin Tower. Now, what will happen? In Bangladesh, we want an island. Oh, Yunus is a pet dog. I'm sorry, pardon my French. Yunus paid $750,000 to Clinton Foundation. Hillary Clinton, Soros, globalist, Harris, they're all tied up. Oh, Yunus is a Democrat. My friends who met Yunus in 2001 in Washington, D.C., they saw Yunus is soft on Islamism. He looks very liberal, but today I see he is the leader of the pack of global jihadists. I will come to that point. Anyway, 2 days ago, I talked to an Arab American reporter. She's Algerian American, came to New York, came to America 1.5 years ago. I already talked about Muslim American or Arab Americans' voice. And I told her that many of the Arab Americans are frustrated with Biden-Harris because of the Gaza war. Of course, they have tribalistic views. Their humanism is truncated because only Muslims die in Gaza, we cry. But if Vietnamese or Buddhists die in some other countries, we don't cry. We are very selective humanists. You understand, folks? Yes, they are very selective. Their humanity is very selective. Only if Gaza is Muslim, that's why we cry for Gaza. If Gaza was Christian, we would not bother. Rohingya is Muslim, we cry for Rohingya. We won't cry for Venezuelans because they are not Muslim, they are infidels. You understand the logic? Okay. Now, coming back to, I say, Bangladesh. What happened in Bangladesh? 2001, Sheikh Hasina was in power. She was Prime Minister of Bangladesh. She came to World Bank, gave a speech. I was there. I asked her, well, simple, Clinton, President, Bill Richardson, member, oil minister, something, Bill Richardson, now dead. I asked Hasina, Sheikh Hasina, the Prime Minister in 2001, Madam, what about the deal you had, the gas export to India? India wanted gas. America wanted also. India, and America sided with India because they had common interest. In my Afghanistan article, Dr. Sarkar, you will see something called aligned force. Sometimes even Libya and America converge on a common goal. Two enemies sometimes converge for a common goal. That's called allied force. I invented the terms. So Mr. Anand, Adarsh Anand and Nandini, please read Afghan article carefully. And also you can share with Khalida Nawabi because I cry for Afghanistan as much Khalida is crying.
Sure.
I know,
will share.
I know. I'm sorry.
Sure, I will share.
Oh, yeah. Okay. How many minutes I have, Mr. Adarsh? 5, 10 minutes? Tell me.
You can go on.
Okay. Let's go
on
with
5
the
to 6.
Arab Spring. I was deployed with the Department of Defense. I worked with counter intel. I worked with FBI. I advised Department of Justice from 2002. They asked my advice. When I was in Qatar, even Department of Homeland Security Deputy Chief Counsel contacted me for a project I would not name. They know my name. I've seen intel community know my name. I was deployed in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. I interviewed thousands of Pakistani workers, Bangladeshi workers, of course, Indian workers also, Nepali, sometimes Filipino. Part of my job, I was part of the screening team. So I know the heartbeat of Bangladeshis. 3 countries, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, thousands of Bangladeshi workers who worked in the bases. I got their pulse beat. Yes, 60 to 70% love Khalida Zia. I realized they are very Islamist type. Some of my diehard Awami League friends, they think, oh, Awami League is very popular. No way. 1975, Zia Rahman brought Islam. I'm talking about political Islam, not Islam per se. I'm not being as blunt as Mufti Masood. I am a political analyst. I will talk about political Islam. 1975, Jamaat Islami came into what do you call it, regular political life because Sheikh Mujib, founding father, banned Jamaat-e-Islami in 1971. I mean, now, after liberation, Bangladesh liberated with secular values. Sheikh Mujib banned all Islamic parties. Ziaur Rahman was a freedom fighter. Later on, he showed that he was a Trojan horse. He was working for ISI and Global Jihad because he brought political Islamists on the forefront. They were hiding. Anyway, Ziaur Rahman first made the country Bangladesh Islamized. 1975 goes on secular Bangladesh, gradually Islamic. 80, then 92, Khaleda Zia, then 90, I think 96, Hasina came to power a little bit. Then 2001, again Khaleda. But 2001, I'm going back to the World Bank. I asked Khaleda, Sheikh Hasina, remember what I asked? What about the gas deal? Sheikh Hasina said in 2001 in World Bank, Sheikh Hasina, the nationalist, like many of the, like Mossadegh of Iran, like Jamaica's Michael Manley, or Allende of Chile, Sheikh Hasina, daughter of Sheikh Mujib, was a nationalist. She could not be bought. She said clearly, I will keep the gas for 50 years for my generation. I realized in 2001, the game, America, India doesn't want Hasina. What happened? Caretaker government was there and election commissioner was there. They were bought by millions of dollars. PNP has a deep pocket. Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the friend of Global Jihad. Sheikh Hasina lost by election engineering. BNP, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, came to power in 2001. 7 days, they unleashed terror among Hindus. They had made Bangla Bhai and other Al-Qaeda type of people a grazing ground in Bangladesh. What happened? During Khaleda's time, between 2001 to 2005, 64 districts, 500 bombs exploded. There are Udichi bombing and like secular groups. There are constant bombing in different places in NGOs. 2006, this Mr. Yunus, Dr. Yunus, so-called doctor who got Peace Prize, not economist, peace, but he is a terror lover. He was asked by Voice of America, Bangla Service, 2006. Dr. Yunus, what do you think about this bombing going? I'm talking about during Khaleda Zia was in power. Dr. Yunus was asked by Voice of America reporter, Dr. Yunus, what do you think about those bombing going on? He gave a very vague answer and I could understand. I don't have to be the rocket scientist. His answer was, Dr. Yunus said, oh, those bombing going on. Those bombing going on. Ah, our young generation has fought for independence. They will subdue all these problems. I knew Dr. Yunus is a double-faced, phony guy. He didn't go to the ideology of the terrorism. You see what was going on at the time? At the time, even Grameen Bank, BRAC, NGO, those are attacked by jihadis. Khaleda Zia brought all the jihadis from underground. Khaleda Zia is a bad name, very bad news. Anyway, coming back to current situation, July, what happened? Okay, before July, last year, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, you can go to the Google and see, America is bringing Arab Spring. Arab Spring is a horrible spring. What is that? Arab Spring started in Tunisia. Obama probably liked it. Egypt liked it. Syria, Arab Spring, big size. Whole country became failed state. Wherever Arab Spring happened, it is a spring of grief, misery, terrorism, Islamism. Okay, I'm an American policymaker with a little brain. I think, okay, to contain China, we need a base. Okay, but no, we did a puppet like Yunus. I'm talking about I am National Security Agency or international CIA analyst. We see very small way. In Afghanistan, we saw what happened because we are so smart. In Bangladesh, we want to make a base. Okay, China. India will not say anything because Bangladesh hasn't joined Quad and Hasina is too much nationalist. Get rid of her. Donald Lu saw BNP. We saw a lot of going on January, February, March, April because those American diplomats wanted Islamist. By the way, I already sent an article, America's Dangerous Liaison with Bangladesh Jamaat. Dr. Nandini Sarkar and Adarsh Anand got it. 2004, 20 years ago, I foresaw. Because America said clearly, in my article I saw, American ambassador also said one time, Bangladesh Jamaat Islami is a moderate Muslim party. Bangladesh Jamaat is part of Pakistan Jamaat, and in 1971, Jamaat Islami of Bangladesh, or I'm sorry, Jamaat Islami of East Pakistan, then they slaughtered people. Ashraf Zaman Khan is a mastermind of intellectual killing. Ashraf Zaman Khan is also leader of ICNA, ICNA, Islamic Circle of North America, based in New York. Ashraf Zaman Khan killed 7 university teachers, testified by driver Mofis, which was in the court. After liberation, Ashraf Zaman Khan went to Pakistan, then I think United Arab Emirates. Somehow he came to America. America is a nice hosting country, brings a lot of, gives host to the many war criminals. And I know my friend Joseph knows even Canada doesn't admit good people, but bad people are coming. Joseph knows. Joseph and I talk regularly because we are talking about counter intel, all these topics. Ashraf Zaman Khan, finally, because he was getting pressure from, I'm just telling you, NYPD for other reason, not for 71. NYPD was watching him. At present, Ashraf Zaman Khan fled away. American citizen Ashraf Zaman Khan, the killer of 7 university teachers. And I think US Department of Justice was following him. I heard he's no more in USA. His brother, blood brother, quote unquote, Chaudhuri Moinuddin, is in UK, but in UK, King Charles is a friend of jihadis, So he hobnobbed. You can Google and see the picture. Chaudhuri Moinuddin plus Prince Charles. You will see a picture. So in UK is a safe haven of global jihad. Forget about UK. USA is not yet because people like us are there.
Just one second to interrupt you. We have to finish the whole thing by 9. So you can wrap up soon.
Yeah. I'm wrapping up now.
Sure.
That war was going on, coming back to Bangladesh, and July. In June, month of June, I came to know from the banker friends of mine. In June, billions of dollars came from Middle East, especially from UAE, which never comes, mysterious thing. Okay, this was going on, the student unrest, so-called quota movement. In the meantime, they were saying big bullets were used. One of my eyewitness friends in Dhaka saw in Shade Minar, the 21st February Minar, he was sitting having tea by the Minar, near the Minar, and he saw 5, 6 kids were watching the phone. Suddenly a police jeep came, 2, 3 people. Police came out, they shot. One got dead. My friend saw bullet came through the eyes. My question is to you all, do you think Hasina did that? It was a deep state in action. So anyway, what happened after 5th of August? Bangabandhu, the father of the nation, his statue was desecrated. His house was burned. Dead bodies were hanging under the bridge. Sign of Al-Qaeda. 5th of August, my friend from, he's from Jatrabad. He said, next door neighbor, 5th of August evening, a student, a young man, he was beheaded. 26th August, another friend of mine said, across the street, the guy was mishandled and he was Awami League. He was basically beaten by other mobs in the house. Awami League dead. And now hundreds of Awami Leaguers are hiding. They were being killed, lynched. By whom? lynch mobs, Islamist. Now, Hizbut Tahrir banned group once came out. Mr. Yunus doesn't talk about those. Jamaati, Ansarullah Bangla team chief was released. One after another, Al-Qaeda, ISIS type of people. Listen, America, tomorrow, many of those Bangladeshi people will be groomed like Afghan terrorists, Al-Qaeda, because 180 million, imagine, many of them are jihadis, many of them. They will be trained. Mr. Ambassadors or Mr. Don Lu and Mr. State Departments. Remember, I'm alerting you, tomorrow you might see many Bangladeshi American terrorists will bomb New York. It will come soon. So what can I say? American people, you decide whom you'll vote. I don't want to say anything. Unfortunately, the present administration failed miserably, and present administration is bringing global jihad. That's all for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hassan. And we really came to know, and it looks like it's never ending. And we enjoyed listening to you, but because of the time restriction, we had to.
No problem.
Yeah,
No problem. Thank you.
It's a great topic, and thanks a lot to all the panelists, and each and everyone contributed a lot in this topic. And in the conclusion, I also want to say everyone that when governments do not act, we the people need to rise up, and democracy will work only when every citizen understands and uses their individual and collective power to demand law and order from their government. And I know we have a lot of Bengalis in this group, and Bengalis have a proud history of sacrifice during Indian independence. But do not forget the wrongdoing of our political leaders when the next election comes. And the power is with us when we all stand tall together with our neighbors in all the cities, towns, and villages of the state of West Bengal. Bengal is Bengal, USA, everywhere. Anybody wants to say anything in the end?
Yeah, I would like to comment if it's okay.
Sure.
Thank you so much from all the information that they shared about terrorism, the groups, how the politics work. Okay. Sorry, they want my video, so I will have to turn it on. So I understand Mufti Sahab what explained about the terrorist and terrorism about the Pakistan role. Very true. About our last speaker, Mr. Hassan, what he mentioned, that he raised the issues the way he want to do it, or the platform that he had the chance to explore, and says the political concept of what's going to happen in the future. That's very true. I totally agree with him. I'm just warning. I just warned that before, that this Taliban invasion in Afghanistan is the start. You will see more worse what we face, even to our neighbors and even to the United States, especially for India. I love India from true of my heart. I just want to say that because you are economically getting better, or you have a good chance that you have stable your economy, so people will try to destroy your country in the name of Islam and jihadism. So just an alert that to be prepared and raise this issue on the political platforms and take decision, because India can take influence and make a decision and put this issue on the platform on the world and European Union sites. Otherwise, I'm just afraid. I don't want to be India in worse situation what now is Bangladesh facing. Thank you so much.
Joseph Ji, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I want to say Tashakor Khalida for your heartfelt, your passion for your country. I want to just tell you, I served in Afghanistan. I went for 1.5 years with our military, with the Canadian Forces. I was sent to the US, where I did a special training in anti-terrorism. I was back in Kandahar, and after that, I spent 6.5 years in the United Nations in Kabul. So I know, I feel personally also feel very passionate about Afghanistan. And as a matter of fact, 3 days before Kabul was taken over by the Taliban, I saved a family of father, mother, 5 daughters, and a son. And I brought them to Canada. I rescued them and had them flown out. I also had another family, a Hazara family, Akbar, and his wife and 2 little children. I got them out of Afghanistan as well. So yes, I understand, the terrible ideological sense of the Taliban. And now going back to Bangladesh, I was almost shot and killed in 1971 during the genocide. I was put up against the wall by a Pakistani soldier to be shot. So that remains in my brains till today. Now I'll tell you about the independence of Bangladesh. Many of the Bengalis will know the name General Jack Jacob. General Jack Jacob was a Yehudi. He is my father's first cousin. And my family, my father and my brothers and all, we were one of the very few Yehudis living in Bangladesh. I feel very passionate about Bangladesh because that's my birth country. And what's happening now, it's unbelievable. I can't even comprehend. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you.
Good
So
night.
we are almost over time. Anybody wants to wrap up with anything?
Just I want to add to Mr. Joseph
Anybody?
Edward.
Yeah.
Just want to add that General Jacob was highly regarded in Bangladesh. The last government under Sheikh Hasina, he was given the highest, friendship award, and
Yes.
he went to Bangladesh, and he's highly regarded, revered in Bangladesh. General Jacob.
Okay. Thank you so much, all the speakers, all the panelists, and the person who conducted this event is Mr. Adarsh Anand and Rajiv Vermaji. Thanks to both of them, and thank you all of you. Thanks a bunch to take out your time and give this to the all these discussions were here. And we don't want another 9/11 to come, so we are all here, and we have to, have stand together
And fight the good fight.
and to take the correct decision regarding. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I said fight the good
Thank
fight.